So I'll pick up a number of the similar pieces that we've already heard and talked about. I was thinking this morning about a question that came out over Basecamp this week. I think it was Jason from Chatham-Kent had asked whether anyone had done a survey of immigrants and non-immigrants in their own communities. Basically, he didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And the response was really great. In about 30 minutes, he had 3 different examples of surveys, tools, and findings in different communities, and he had a good place to start from. Along similar lines, I was talking recently to Melanie from the LIP and PEI, and she shared that when she started there, she thought her community was quite unique in settlement patterns and needs, and that's very true. But then she also came to learn how similar the issues were when we started sharing surveys and survey findings, and seeing that it didn't matter that much where you were in Canada, that there were some similarities that she could benefit from, that we could all benefit from sharing. And so collaborating saved her tons of time and effort, but also broadened her perspective. And so this is what I want to explore today. I want to share a bit about collaboration, specifically in terms of research. And then I'll share our local survey of immigrants in Waterloo Region, how we collaborated locally, as well as with other LIPs. So research is like a puzzle. One partner might have one piece of data, another might have expertise, another has influence, another has connection to individuals. The act of research then is the thing that brings all those pieces together, allows us to see the big picture and move forward with that. Research is, at its essence, collaboration. So in Waterloo Region, as in your communities, collaboration is in our DNA. It's baked into our essence, into our name, Immigration Partnerships. What that looks like locally in terms of research, we've undertaken and compiled a number of reports on demographic profiles, undertaken surveys of employers and our partners, as well as the general public about attitudes and perceptions. Each of these pieces was a piece of the puzzle for us and was done in collaboration with other organizations that brought something really critical, whether it was public health bringing epidemiological expertise or access to data, or the Workforce Planning Board with their employment knowledge and access to and connection to employers. So the piece I want to share a bit more about today, though, is our survey of immigrants and refugees, our Immigration Matters survey. We ran the first survey about 2 years ago with the intention to update it every other year. And the first year we heard from 100 immigrants and refugees and a few international students, as well as a number of other community members, employers, partners, et cetera. This year, in 2019, we wanted to be a lot more focused on hearing from immigrants and people who weren't born in Canada. We had a wide range of questions, demographics, use of local services, and not just the use of services, but the barriers that people were finding, why they didn't use services, how they learned about services, that sort of thing. And then questions about sense of belonging, discrimination, top challenges, what was most supportive for them. So we wanted to this year reach a lot more participants, and we wanted to do that. So we heard from 100 immigrants and refugees and international students the first year. This year we wanted to hear from 1,000. And increasing the number was important for us for 2 reasons. One, so we could hear more diverse and nuanced voices and ideas from newcomers, and really convinced that that's a really critical piece to keeping us grounded, but also so that we could disaggregate the data and find out how experiences differ for different groups. Refugees, recent immigrants, LGBTQ individuals, people with low English ability, low income, racialized, et cetera. But if we were to reach 1,000 survey participants, we couldn't just do it with a few staff. It had to be a community-wide effort. Collaboration would be critical. So we asked each of our partners to promote it, work with clients to fill it out, and share it with newcomer friends and family. And after the first week, we had about 100 responses. So we reached out to a local settlement organization or multicultural center to hire some of their interpreters to be multilingual surveyors and to go into public settings, multicultural festival, Canada Day celebrations, ethnic food stores, and talk to people, get their feedback. We made sure to translate the survey into, we shortened it and translated it into 8 different languages to facilitate these public settings, and that was really valuable. These ambassadors were really critical to getting several hundred additional responses. Then we partnered with local outreach workers that worked in neighborhood organizations, and with incentives, they were working with low-income families, and with some incentives, some Tim Hortons gift certificates, we were able to add another 100, 150 responses. The rest was working really closely with all of our partners, constantly cheerleading and highlighting for them the value of the survey, not just for the community, but for them as well. Some partners encouraged each client to fill it out as they were waiting in the, for their appointments. Some mailed it to their mailing list. Some took it home, some staff took it home and shared it with their cultural associations. It was certainly a community effort. And so this is us celebrating, reaching 1,090 responses. Can we get, there we go, celebrating. We learned quite a few things from the survey. Some of them not very surprising. Finding work and finding affordable housing were key challenges. The third one, making friends or social connections, as a third top challenge, was striking in that when we looked at what helped immigrants most, making friends and having family support were the top 2 things that helped them most, far above finding work, volunteering, community programs, settlement workers way down the list. And so it helped us to clarify what are some of the other pieces that we need to be focusing on in terms of our work. We also learned useful tips along the way, and I can share some of those things with you individually if you have any questions. Things like desegregating the data was really critical to find out how it differed for each population, or how to reach out to different marginalized groups. So I want to come back briefly to how we developed the survey, in particular with other immigration partnerships. This past winter, I'd shared some research reports with other LIPs across Basecamp, and then continued those conversations one-on-one with people that commented. When it came time to develop our immigrant survey a couple months later, I shared that with a few of those LIP folks. And it turned out to be really helpful as we became a bit of a virtual research team, sharing resources back and forth. In particular, Melanie in PEI and Duyen in St. John and others at other LIPs all across the country. I shared our draft survey tool with them. They gave really helpful and detailed feedback. They then used my survey when developing their own survey tool, and then they shared their resulting tool back with me, and I was able to take those and put those into consideration for when we do the survey in 2 years again. And so it's this back and forth that was really useful. We did that also with outreach and implementation ideas, probing and, why did you do this? And what about this? And then adjusting the approach accordingly. I found it extremely useful to have a local research committee made up of our immigrants that were on our LIP council, and as well to have a virtual research team of LIPs that had applied similar things in slightly different contexts. And that balance between those two forums gave a lot of useful feedback and fodder for consideration as we develop these things. So, and going back and forth and back and forth. So I want to do a quick Slido poll. Has your LIP recently been involved, or do you anticipate being involved in research with any of the following? And what I find interesting about this is that there's certainly a lot of research experience that we can learn from in all these areas. Certainly in terms of surveys of immigrants, but also of these other groups as well. We don't have to start from scratch. We don't have to reinvent the wheel with any of these things. And so let's close that off. So I want to finish by sharing a few ideas for how we could collaborate further. What more could we do? First of all, getting together in person is really important, I think. It might be regionally or nationally, like at P2P conferences. And it certainly happens, but I'd love to see even more operational level discussions so we can probe and explore, so why did you do that, and how do you do this, and what was your experience with this type of thing? I think research is a useful forum for that type of collaboration. Secondly, I think there could be more collaboration around research at a broader or national level, and Paulina and Douglas will talk a lot more about that level within National Secretariat. And thirdly, I've wondered about a contact list of research people at each LIP, so we can make connections where needed. Maybe a list of who has done some of these surveys, so that we can start from that point rather than starting from scratch. So one more poll, just to finish with. How could you best benefit from other LIP's research experience in terms of some of those surveys? And maybe let's not pick all of them, make some choices, maybe maximum 2 or 3. So I won't comment too much on this, except to say that I think this is some useful information that the National Secretariat or we could explore further in other forums. So thank you very much.